Everybody, it is the day newsletter for Shema Yisrael, and it is titled Keep Counting and Stay Focused on the Harvest. And again, this is from Brother Todd Bennett, and he has a site called shemayisrael.net. For those who do not know what Shema Yisrael is, it's actually just it's kind of like a war cry. Hear and obey Yisrael. And so it actually means for you guys, if you guys are Shema, you have the Shema, it's to hear and obey. All right, shalom all. Today is day 28 of month 1 on the Creator's calendar, also known as April 30th, 2022 on the Roman calendar. Last week I received an email with a question concerning Passover and unleavened bread. While I respond to numerous emails every week, I thought this one might be helpful for everyone to see because it clearly resolves confusion that are met with each year. Here's the question. I was blessed by your most recent email. It caused me to rethink what I thought I understood regarding the timing of everything involved in Pesach observance. I used to do the cooking portion at the end of the 14th and eat it on the 15th, but I have seen the light, so to speak. The point you made regarding when the blood would be placed on the doorpost and lintel really brought things together in my head. Killing the lamb or goat after dark on the 14th is then actually the 15th, so putting the blood on the doorpost and lintel then would be too late. Understanding that Pesach is on the 14th, and therefore one must kill the lamb or goat at the beginning of that day, evening time, so the blood could be applied and be there by around midnight, as Yah told Moshe, is logical. The question that still plagues me revolves around the scriptures in Shema 12, verse 15 and 16. Talk about unleavened bread. Then to verse 17, Yahuwah admonishes us to guard the festival of Matzah. But then there are some interesting statements in the following verses. Verse 17, and you shall guard the festival of Matzah. For on this same day I brought your divisions out of the land of Mitzrayim. And you shall guard this day throughout your generations, an everlasting law. Question. I'm guessing this is probably another instance of things being lost in translation. How can the 7-day period of unleavened bread be referred to as a single day, as it seems to be referred to here? Now here in verse 18 is where I get really confused. Verse 18, on the first month, on the 14th day of the new moon in the evening, you shall eat unleavened bread until the 21st day of the new moon in the evening. Based on what we know regarding the day beginning in the evening, there seems to be a problem. Counting from the 14th day in the evening, the beginning of the day, to the 21st day in the evening, the beginning of that day, we have only 7 days. And Yah starts the counting on the 14th day. Does Yah mean to tell us that we only have to eat unleavened bread on the 21st of the month 1 until daylight, and after that we don't have to? I doubt that. There must be some other explanation. Otherwise, those who teach the Pesach and unleavened bread would have some pretty good ground to stand on. I'm looking for the distinction here between Pesach and unleavened bread. Help me out here, Aki. Here's the essence of the response that I sent. I modified it a bit as I think I will include it in an article next year. Exodus 12:15 teaches us the 7 days of unleavened bread are from day 15 of month 1 to day 21 of month 1. Exodus 12:16 teaches us the first day of unleavened bread on day 15 of month 1. And on the 7th day of unleavened bread on day 21 of month 1 are annual Sabbaths, when no work is done. Exodus 12:17 commands us to observe the feast of unleavened bread for 7 days, and then says, for on this same day I will have brought your armies out of the land of Egypt. Therefore you shall observe this day throughout your generations as an everlasting ordinance. Some might argue that this same day and this day here refers to the first high Shabbat on day 15 of month 1 when Yisrael left Ramses, Egypt. Here's what we read in Numbers 33:3. They departed from Ramses in the first month, on the 15th day of the first month. On the day after the Passover, the children of Yisrael went out with boldness in the sight of all the Egyptians. However, when they left Ramses, Egypt, they did not leave the land of Egypt. They only left the land of Egypt when they crossed the Red Sea. It is impossible to know this as the archaeological evidence shows Egypt had mines in the Sinai Peninsula, but that Egypt's ancient borders did not cross the Gulf of Aqaba into modern-day Saudi Arabia. Neither do Egypt's borders cross into Saudi Arabia to this day. Therefore, this is how we understand the timing of Passover and unleavened bread. Exodus 12:18-20 provides, in the first month, on the 14th day of the month at evening, Arab, evening beginning the 14th, you shall eat unleavened bread until the 21st day of the month at evening, Arab, evening between the 21st. For 7 days, day 15 of month 1 to day 21 of month 1, no leaven shall be found in your houses. Since whoever eats what is leavened, that same person shall be cut off from the congregation of Yisrael, whether he is a stranger or a native of the land. You shall eat nothing leavened. In all your dwellings you shall eat unleavened bread. The key here is understanding that evening begins at sunset, not when the sun is still above the horizon, as many teach. It is also important to understand the distinctions between the positive command to eat unleavened bread and the negative command that no leaven be seen in your houses, and implicity, eaten, implicity. Eaten. I don't even know these words. When you eat unleavened bread on day 21 of month 1 at evening, the 21st has already begun. If you watch the sun set, declare that day 21 of month 1 has begun and eat a piece of unleavened bread. You have finished eating unleavened bread for the entire specified period of time from day 14 of month 1 to day 21 of month 1, and the positive commandment to eat unleavened bread has been fulfilled. Now, just do not eat leavened bread for the next 24 hours until the sunset beginning day 22 of month 1, and you will have fulfilled the negative commandment not to eat the leavened bread for the specified period of time, for 7 days during the Feast of Unleavened Bread. Straightforward prophecy when you recognize the distinctions. Remember that according to Numbers 9:3, all the ordinances of the Passover were fulfilled on day 14 of month 1. It is important to never forget this instruction because that settles the matter. Numbers 9:3 provides, on the 14th day of this month, at twilight, you shall keep it at its appointed time. According to all its rites and ceremonies, you shall keep it. False teachers and historical revisionists have caused confusion in 2 ways. 1, they have said to do on day 15 of month 1 what Yahuwah said to do on day 14th of month 1. 2, they have said that Arab means any time from high noon to the dark of night. This is in opposition to Yahuwah, who teaches us his word that Arab begins at sunset and ends when it is dark or night. Leila, Genesis 1:5. This issue is dealt with in the Sabbath Resurrection article. For an extensive teaching, look at the section, page 76 through 81, under the subheading, the evening sacrifice and the Passover sacrifice, and the summary on page 99. That is the end of the answer. Even though Passover is past us now, you can tuck this away in your archives for clarity and refreshing next year. I hope that settles any question regarding the mixing of Passover with the Feast of Unleavened Bread. The Torah is all about distinctions, and this is an important one. It also leads us to another distinction concerning the count we are currently in. As most of you know, we are in the midst of the period often referred to as the counting of the Omer, Lag Bomar. The count began on the 2nd day of the Feast of Unleavened Bread, referred to as the morrow after the Shabbat, when the re-sheep barley offering was made by the priest to initiate the grain offering. See Leviticus 23:15. The offering of the re-sheet, first barley offering, is not the Feast of First Fruits, as some incorrectly teach. There is not a separate feast within the Feast of Unleavened Bread. The actual Feast of First Fruits would be at the Feast of Shavuot, when people gather after the wheat harvest, and bring their bikurim, first fruits of the wheat. As we discussed in the last message, the Feast of Shavuot is actually called the Day of the First Fruits. The entire point of the Omer count is to keep us focused from the initial barley offering to the first fruits of the wheat harvest. That is because the wheat harvest is intimately connected to the Messiah. Remember when John the Immerser proclaimed, I indeed immerse you with water unto repentance, but he who is coming after me is mightier than I, whose sandals I am not worthy to carry. He will immerse you with a set-apart spirit and fire. His winnowing fan is in his hand, and he will thoroughly clean out his threshing floor and gather his wheat into the barn. But he will burn up the chaff with unquenchable fire. Matthew 3:11-12. If you are in the covenant renewed by the blood of Yahushua, then you are classified as his wheat. You want to be harvested by Messiah as described in Revelation 14:14. As a result, you should be very interested in the wheat harvest that occurs during the Omer count and the first fruits, bikurim, wheat offering made at the Feast of Shavuot. Now, I mentioned in a previous article that the Torah is all about distinctions, and it is worth repeating today. It is critical to recognize that the weekly Sabbath is separate and distinct from the annual appointed times. The distinction is made very clear in Leviticus 23:2-4. Through 4, when it specifically separates the weekly Sabbath from the other annual appointed times. They are not to be mixed, just as animals, seed, and fabrics are not to be mixed. See Leviticus 19:19. The prohibition against mixing is a basic Torah principle. The weekly Sabbath is only determined by a 7-day count that started in Genesis 1:3-5. On the first day, when Elohim defined a day as flowing from the evening through the morning to the following sunset. The annual appointed times require require the reckoning of the year, the months, and the days, which involve a collaboration of two great lights, the sun and the moon. That is why Genesis 1:14 specifically provided that the two great lights are for Moedim, appointed times. If you read an English Bible, you will read the word seasons, which does not provide specifically included in the Hebrew language and text. The English word seasons generally refer to winter, spring, summer, and fall. The Hebrew word Moedim specifically refers to appointed times described in Leviticus 23, among other portions of the Torah. The Sabbaths mentioned when describing the annual appointed times will refer to an individual day defined as a Sabbath within the appointed time, often called a high Sabbath. That is intended to distinguish it from the weekly Sabbath. Now, admittedly, Shavuot is probably the most confusing and mysterious appointed time to count and is literally a day and an hour that no one knows. The reason for this is because it spans over the course of 2 months, and the count occurs while we are observing the moon to determine the length of month 1 and month 2 and the beginning of month 3. It also relies upon the sun to know when a day begins and ends. It is even more clouded by a conflict in translations and the difference in weeks versus Sabbaths. The count to Shavuot involves both weeks and days, and it will also include 7 weekly Sabbaths. The feast itself is called Shavuot, which literally means weeks. So the emphasis is on weeks. At first glance, it would seem like counting weekly Sabbaths might be correct, but that is simply not the case. So there is confusion regarding when to begin the count and how to count, largely because of the translation issues and traditions that fail to recognize the distinctions provided in the Torah. The failure to understand these important distinctions will often get you counting the Omer at the wrong time and therefore celebrating Shavuot at the wrong time. This could have important future implications, especially when we consider the tradition that Yisrael slept in late on Shavuot. That is why they stay up all night on Shavuot. I wonder if this has anything to do with the parable of the 10 virgins. Something to consider. We know how the calendar operated during the time of Yahushua. The set-apart spirit actually confirmed that calendar by the outpouring and witnesses to all the people gathered there in Jerusalem from all over the world. We read about that event in Acts 2. The spirit arrived when the people were gathered for Shavuot, so they must have been counting correctly, unlike the people scattered around the Dead Sea following solar calendar variants. If you have trouble understanding this, I have an article on the website called When Do We Celebrate Shavuot? You may find that helpful. Of course, you may also read the Walk in the Light book titled Appointed Times, which outlines all of the spiritual Moedim. I'm going to break right there because I've had other folks that do not believe Brother Todd is correct in his counting of this. And I find that Todd is, he's an older gentleman. He's not old, like in the terms of like Noah or something, but he is in his 60s. And he has been doing this for 30 some years, or at least this. He's an attorney. He's been to Yisrael 50 times. I don't know how many times. It is a huge amount of times where he has walked over there. He's walked with where the Messiah walked. He has seen a lot of this stuff. And so he brings things to this that we wouldn't know as just being people outside of the land. So I believe what he says. And if you guys have questions about this, definitely go to his website and check out that When Do We Celebrate Shavuot? I think it's like 70 pages or something of the sort. And it is very detailed, and we need to get through that. And it may not be 70 pages. My wife's giving me that look. So there is another thing that has 70 pages that we looked over the other day that had something to do with that, right, Nicole?
I don't know. I think this one was only 9.
This one was only 9. There's something out there 70 pages. Go find something that's 70 and you might like it. I have no idea. All right, let's continue on. The brethren at Torah Calendar have been kind enough to prepare an Omer count chart that is available for free download in the calendar resources section. You can print it and hang it on your wall. It is an excellent way to keep your focus in this very hectic world that we live in. And again, side notes, I agree with the Torah calendar to most everything except these people are round ballers. I think Brother Todd is too. But there's something about gauging and guiding and changing everything based upon the equinoxes and the spinning of the earth and things like that, because that can't be. But we'll continue on. I have also posted on the homepage of Shema Yisrael website for your convenience. One reason why we are taught to count during this time is so that we maintain our focus on the grain harvest. The grain harvest is a result of the fall, and it provides the path back to the garden. That is why it's built into the beginning of the covenant through the appointed times that culminate with the first fruits. Make no mistake, it doesn't take a prophet to predict that the harvests on earth are in trouble. There are forces at work seeking to create shortages that will lead to famine. That man-made famine will only mirror another famine that currently exists, a famine of the words. Behold, the days are coming, says Adonai Yahuwah, that I will send a famine on the land, not a famine of bread, nor a thirst for water, but of hearing the words of Yahuwah. Amos 8:11. The true famine is described as im leshema et debre Yahuwah, literally, but for the hearing of the et words of Yahuwah. There is something in this passage that you will not find in the English, the Aleph Tah. That is a critical omission, since the Aleph Tah represents the Messiah. While the world may be filled with the words of rabbis, the words of Paul, and even the supposed words of Jesus, there is a famine of the words spoken by the true Messiah, Yahushua, the et words. So as we count the days to Shavuot, our focus should be on the harvest of the Messiah. His wheat are also his sheep. They hear his voice, words, and they follow him. While evil people and organizations are planning a famine of food, rest assured it is not from Yahuwah. The only famine he is sending is a famine for his words. Only those who hunger and thirst for righteousness will survive that famine. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they shall be filled. Matthew 5:6. Every day that goes by, I marvel at the works of evil and the deception that is pervading the planet. As I count the Omer, I am watching others review the count of the dead and injured from the harmful injections. Regardless of the mounting deaths and injuries, the evil ones are frantically trying to inject even infants with their abominable concoctions. We really need to be praying for those poor little ones with fools for parents who are falling to protect them. Now, this is where I am struggling. I wonder if I should even put this on YouTube, but I will, because it doesn't say anything that goes against them. And I understand that YouTube is our now medical people, but this doesn't say anything that goes against anything that says that. So please don't strike this video, YouTube. Evil people. We're in the midst of a famine of truth. Is it any wonder that there is a famine of the et words? Yahushua proclaimed, the harvest truly is plentiful, but the laborers are few. Therefore pray the master of the harvest to send out laborers into his harvest. Matthew 9:37. Yahushua is the master of the harvest. We must pray that he sends more laborers as we labor through the harvest. Next week, I would like to spend more time looking at the grain harvest and its significance in revealing the first fruits in the kingdom, the bride of Messiah. Shalom. ShemaYisrael.net. And then he goes, I'm currently in New York working on keeping the lights on. All of the traveling and weather changes going through from hot Texas to cold rain. So he goes between Texas and New York. He only has to stay in New York to keep his attorney business rolling. And he's in Texas. So anyway, that is the end of this. I am looking back up here, and I don't think this says anything that's going to get this channel banned, and I want to try to stay away from that because our focus is on the Torah. Our focus is on Yahuwah. It's keeping the commandments of Yahuwah, and I do try to stay away from any of this stuff, which we all know with eyes to see, ears to hear. We know what's going on. So, guys, much love to everybody out there. I hope you're good. I'm out.